head off and really describe what this year is and how it's affected, well, I suppose all of the cultural industries, anybody who is who is presenting events such as us, anyone in the performing arts, anyone in the arts field in general, and anyone who is running major exhibitions. We've all been overnight required to change our modes of practice. And so for many of us, it's been a huge challenge. And we would normally, by this stage of the year, have only run 2 events in-house at the History Council of New South Wales, as we carefully worked towards History Week and encouraging our members to put in their ideas for History Week. And then we would have created an online program. All of that has changed. We have run in the last, well, tonight, this is the 12th event that we've run online. And some of the events have been quite large. Some of them have had up to 100 people, and we've had to learn pretty fast. It's been very challenging, and it's been challenging time-wise and technologically wise as well. I'm sure that's not a correct term, but anyway, we've been challenged technically. And so we want to share how we've done that. We want to share that with you to encourage you as our members to really take up this opportunity to change some of your ways as well. I'd like to cite a bit of a really interesting example that when we first started down this path of presenting things online, we started to think about, oh, well, was it going to be Skype? Was it going to be Zoom? Was it going to be this? Maybe we'd make a radio program out of something. We'd get panels together and we'd do this, that, and the other. And it all looked extremely daunting. So we wrote it all down. We broke it all down. It's a little bit like the basic tenet of project planning, as Cass would know, because she's studying this at the moment. The basic tenet is, how does an ant eat an elephant? And that is, of course, mouthful by mouthful. So that was our approach. We went, this is huge, and we have an opportunity to engage with our audience in a way that we hadn't done before. And the major example that really triggered us about that was that one of our members, Mr. Richard Neville, who is who works in a very high-level management position as State Librarian at the State Library of New South Wales, said to us that they'd run a couple of events which were book club events, and they'd usually only get about 12 people turning up in a room. And this is a great example because they put it out there as a webinar, and they had literally hundreds of people. They had over, I think, 250 people turn up. But there were a couple of things that they discovered along the way, which we've discovered as well. And those things were, people have a limited attention span on screen. They don't particularly want to stick with you for the same duration of time that they would sit in a room where they can look around the room, or they can get up and go and get a cup of tea or a biscuit, or look at someone and smile or something like that. Zoom meetings and Zoom webinars are very emotionally intense because you're actually looking at people. Now, we chose Zoom because many of our partners had Zoom. And so we chose Zoom because other people could tell us how it worked. And then we found it was actually quite easy to work with. And the interesting thing from our point of view is we started off with a free version, and we did a little experiment, and then we had a few meetings inside, and we got actually quite good at it because it's actually very easy to use, which we'd never found in the past with other technologies. And then we discovered that the limitations of the Zoom meeting, the free version, was that it cuts out after 40 minutes. So if you've got a meeting that you want to run, or if you've got a presentation that you want to run for more than 40 minutes, you're going to have to, put some money down and buy a subscription of some sort. And all the pricing is up on the Zoom site, which we can show you in one of the documents in a minute. So we went from free to then a paid version, which was just for meetings. And then we discovered that there were limitations to the subscription that we had, which was $220 a year. Limitations to that in terms of how we got people in the door, how we got them enrolled and registered in the sessions. And because there's just the two of us as paid staff, and usually we're only working part-time, although this time of the year it's ramped up considerably, we decided that we would innovate and pay for a little bit more. So we went for webinar level. And we've expanded the number of people that we could have in our session. So we went from just, a handful of 30 to 40, we can now have 100 people. So they call that 100 seats or 100 participants. Now, if we paid more, which we kind of don't really think we're going to do at the moment because we're being sensible about our budget, if we paid more, we could have literally thousands. I mean, if the more you pay, the more you get access to, of course, in these heady days of the digital world. So how is this affecting the way in which some of our members are thinking about our events? Well, firstly, we were very worried that a lot of people were going to be very technically challenged in the same way that we were. And even though I come from a television background, so I'm a little bit more used to kind of walking the corridors in amongst all the digital equipment and talking to the techies and figuring out how things work. That was my world for many, many years. And a natural curiosity about it, which drives Cass mad, I'm absolutely sure. But, at the same time, looking and talking to to some of our partners and some of our members, we suddenly discovered that some of the big members, some of the large corporates like Macquarie University, were thinking in terms of, let's not just do a talk with a panel as they'd done in the past. They were actually going to take that panel and turn it into something else, which was really exciting. So they, of course, because they had the facilities to do it, they went and spoke to their IT people. And we learned from what they came back and told us that they were doing. So this is what I mean in terms of practicing, good adult education or building capability. Share with others all the time. Share your learnings with others, or pick other people's brains, or steal their practices. It's all part of actually putting a good production together, is figuring out what other people are doing and asking them, how are you doing that? And it's a really interesting thing. So what Macquarie University, they were first cab off the rank. They came to us, and Tanya Evans, who is our previous president, was very keen to do something that was going to make History Week absolutely sing. So they're doing basically something which is based on a TED Talk, even though it's not a TED Talk. But you can see what I mean. They looked at a model they liked and they adapted it for something that would work for them. And that's a really important thing to do. Now, there are other people who are doing things in other ways. Now, I'm just going to hand over to Cass here, because there are other people, some other members who are not the large corporate Macquarie University with an IT department sitting in the background, but they have events that they want to run, and they want to run them in a certain way, but they don't want to do them purely online. They want to do them what we call blended. So you've got a face-to-face component and an online component. So Cass, if you could tell us a couple of those ones, that'd be great.
Yeah, so a really good example from like a medium body organisation is New South Wales Parliament. So they're doing quite a blended event when it comes to the fact that they still want to have a lecture or talk in person, which is capped because of New South Wales health restrictions. So it's under 20 for the moment. But they still want to have that opportunity for the public to come in and attend a lecture. But whilst the lecture is being run, they're going to record it on Facebook Live. So they have that online element where they can have the physical audience, but as well as the digital audience also being engaged in the content that's being produced. So for example, because some people might not be able to attend, they can still attend live. So that's a really good example of how people are blending their events, as well as, for example, I think it's Wollongong City Libraries. Wollongong City Libraries are having an exhibition. I believe it's Wollongong. They're having an exhibition about COVID, and so they're getting examples from the community through photographs. So what they're doing is that they're allowing people to come to the library to view the exhibition, but they'll be putting it online as well, so they can have that digital audience as well. So through the days, they'll post series of photos with blogs which talk about that exhibition and answer the question to the History Week theme whilst online, but also having the physical audience there so that people can actually view it in person. They're the only two that pop to mind at the moment. Some are doing...
Yes, how are they doing their online component? Have they told you how? Because when people register for our events, they put, they go in through our portal and they put a lot of detail in there, and then CAS downloads those details and puts a certain amount of it up into our events calendar, which we'll show you in a moment as well. But have they told you how they're doing their online component?
No, they haven't, but I would expect that they will be doing it, and like for the New South Wales Parliament one, they'll be recording it on, like, even your iPhone. You'll be surprised how good an iPhone can be, and you can use the editing feature on your iPhone to either record something, then post it up as a post-production event, and then put it on your website, send it to us, we'll put it on our website, we'll put it on our Facebook, doing it that way. But with the other online events, what people are doing, because when you think about online, you may think about people giving talks or lectures or having webinars and such. Some people are actually coming up with creative ways to engage their audience and get impact and engagement. So for example, Campbelltown City Libraries are doing Campbelltown 5x5, which is an online event that is run directly through Instagram, where they're engaging the public in quizzes about Campbelltown history by producing pictures of their collections, images from the past, asking them questions to test their knowledge about Campbelltown, but also teaching them about the value of history, for example, in Campbelltown, and what it means for the communities there. So you're learning something. So that's a really good way of also actually having an online event that doesn't involve literally what we're doing, like sitting here and talking. You can actually engage people in a lot of different ways and be interactive and create activities that make people think about the theme, and also bring the point across at which you want to explore as well. So that's a really good example of an online event that's not following pretty much the normal rules of how you would do an online event.
Yes, and I think they're really good examples because people are realising that by reaching out, just like the example of the State Library that I gave earlier, by reaching out and putting things online, either through Zoom or or there's GoToMeeting that you can use, or Skype. They're the three major platforms that you can use. By reaching out to their local communities in a blended type of manner, they're actually accessing much wider communities. Mm-hmm. And so, in fact, as you know, being the History Council of New South Wales, we're funded by the New South Wales government. They give us a small grant every year, and our members fund us as well. But we principally, we've had to prove in the past how many people in New South Wales we engage in our events. But this time around, what we're actually seeing when we run webinar events, history webinar events, we've been seeing people from far and wide, and that's what the State Library said as well. They were getting people from the US and the UK, that suddenly it cracks open the local history, or the historian talking about their book, an author talk, or any of those, or the exhibitions. You're able to access a wider audience. So the way in which we will be able to actually help you do that is that, as we're doing with our particular recordings at the moment, and I'll show, actually I'm going to share my screen initially. First of all, I'm going to share my screen to show you what we've got up here on our website in terms of History Week. So stick with me. Okay, so History Week online, or History Week generally, you can access it. We've put the tab up there so it's really obvious for everyone. You can easily find it, and that's where we're in the info sessions. You've got your annual history lecture info there, and then you've got past histories of History Week, and it goes back for many, many years, but we haven't always been doing it online, as you would well imagine, or we haven't got all the materials up there online from past ones, is what I'm saying. So this is this year's page that we've created. As you can tell, we're a very digital organisation to start off with. So that's one thing that really, I suppose, differentiates us from a number of other organisations that thankfully a few years ago we had some people who were working here who were such experts at building websites and they were historians that they built this. So we've got this fantastic legacy that we work with on a daily basis, and we feel forever grateful for what they did. And this is why you're going to be able to also access what we can put out there for you. So the way we're building on what they've done is that firstly, we've got an events calendar. Now, I bought a new plugin the other day. There I go, being techie again. And it plugs into our website and it goes through to an events calendar, which can either sort by month or by day or by list. So you're not seeing very much here in August, but when you get into September, it's when it starts to show up. And so if we look, say by list, for instance, you can see that on, you see Cass has started to import some of the banners in here, but what we might do is we're still playing with this in the background and wildly excited about it because it is a new toy. And so what we might do is get some of the images from each individual event, which we can do, and put them in alongside there. This is our absolutely fantastic new banner that we've got. And I'll go back and explain that in a moment as to the history of that banner. But I wanted to show you that by clicking through to some of these things, it gives the same sort of information that we had in the past. So where in the past you actually saw, we had a PDF calendar that actually was a calendar of events, and we would then put a lot of that information into newsletters and send it out and things like this. That this time round, we were going to be putting the link through to this calendar in our newsletters, and as you can see, it's already up on our website. And as we get your registrations, we put them into this calendar. Now, the type of thing that we can then do is that we can put links up to your Instagram site, your Twitter site, your Facebook site, any of those sorts of things. And then we can also, and so this is where down the bottom here is where you'll see all our logos and the person who's registered the event, in this case, Wollongong City Council. And so, and then we're also going to be able to put any links that you have from your website that you want us to put up there for the event for the day, or that you want us to keep up there forevermore. We can put those through, which is great. So if you have an event, which is a panel that you wanted to do, or you do a little pre-record on your iPhone or through a Zoom discussion that you might have with, say, the history of the history section at a council, or an exhibition, like photographs of an exhibition done with your iPhone, then you send that to us and we can put a link through to that up on our site, or you send us the completed product as an MP3 or 4, and we will then put that up on our website as well. Okay, so I'm just going to go back into, I'm also then going to show you the history effect. Now, the reason why I'm going to show you this is that it's a series that we started recently, and it's a way of thinking about things in that I've stolen from the television past that I came from. How does a television station categorize things? They create themes. They create ways of, like, they'll create strands of things. And by creating a strand, if you've got multiple events, by creating a strand, you can then promote it really, really effectively. So we've created the History Effect event series. And on that page, which is not part of History Week, but I'm only showing you this so that you can see what we've got. We've got episodes of what we've got. Now, at the moment, we've recorded quite a number of these, but we've only got 2 up on our YouTube site. Now, what we're going to be doing during History Week as part of our contribution to History Week is the usual events that we run are annual history lecture and awards and prizes. This year, we're also going to put edited versions of our videos up here on the site as well, and we will pepper them through the program. And I'll just show you how this works. We've got, and hang on, okay. So what we've done, and anyone can do this, this is free. You can go onto YouTube and you create a channel. And there's plenty of instructions up on the YouTube site about how you do this. And the real advantage of creating a channel and then uploading your videos onto the channel is that it doesn't load up your website. It's somebody else's website. It's a YouTube website. And these take ages to upload. So if you're thinking of uploading something for a particular date, do it several days in advance, because you're bound to be there all night watching a wheel go round and round and round. And that's my tip. I've done it on many occasions over many years. And you can, so already we've got 19 subscribers and they've only been up for a little while. And I've created playlists, and I could create channels if I wanted to as well. We could get discussions going through YouTube. But if you're worried about, things like copyright or things like that, do make sure you read the YouTube rules around that, because, you have to be very careful. We had one video which had a piece of music in it. And we had purchased that piece of music, the license for it. We put it up there. It's one of these two. And as soon as we put it up there, it was pinged. It had a license. It's like red flagged in the system. It was ping because somebody owned the copyright on it. So then we had to prove to them with the license number that we'd purchased that. So it's, it can be tricky if you're doing things like using music or things like that. So my advice is, do keep it simple if you're planning on doing that. But the advantage of that, of actually having a YouTube site, sorry, I'll just get back to where I was, to the history effect. The advantage of having a YouTube site, if you've got a website, is that it can just simply put a hyperlink through from your website to the YouTube site. So you don't have to say to people, oh, we also have a YouTube site. It's just a hyperlink that goes through to that page, and then you put all your stuff up there. And the other thing that this shows you is that if you send us your product in advance of History Week, then what actually happens is that we can put them up onto our site if you wanted us to, and we can pull them down at the end of it if you wanted us to as well. We can delete them completely. But we could do that and put it up there on a platform without you needing to actually establish a separate platform. But you could say it's History Week, and then we just link through to that from the calendar. So it makes it quite easy there, and then we put details into the calendar, etc. Okay, now I'm just also going to go back to History Week, because I wanted to talk about the theme this year, and I want to talk about the history of this fantastic new piece of artwork that we've just put up there today, or maybe it was last night, but anyway. This, as you may or may not know as members, every year the History Week chooses a theme, and usually the theme is actually attuned to what a major social preoccupation of the year might be. So we started the year, we chose this theme last November, and we started the year with just throwing out a question, history, what is it good for? And then we got hit with the bushfires and the pandemic and Black Lives Matter. So by the time we got to do the artwork, which was really fairly late in the piece this year, and thank heavens for that, I've got to say, and apologies to those people who might have been hanging out waiting for the artwork to download it for their sites. And there is more artwork coming. We're going to be getting the little, square ones and the postcard one and the one that's as big as a poster and all that sort of thing. And they'll be up here by next week on our site. There'll be another button, which is down here, which says download artwork where you can go in there and get the artwork if you wanted to brand your events, rather than feeling you had to go into this one and download it and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I wanted to say event registrations close on the 18th of August. And you know why that would be, for all the right reasons. We have to get all the information up on the site before History Week, and we have to test it, and we have to be able to go back to people that are registering their events and ask them, do you need our assistance in any way? Or what is it that you need to send to us in advance of the event? So we need to get all of our ducks in a line. And so that's why it closes off there. It usually closes off much earlier in the year. And but this year you're lucky if you want to put an event in right up to the 18th of August. And that's the button where you register through to a form that takes you through to a form on our site for registration. Now, I just wanted to say that this was written yesterday by our president. And I think that it is really important for those people who really are saying, you know, what can we do in terms of this theme? And so we're saying it has been a momentous year. And I must say we've had 2 new medium corporate members join us in the last week because of this theme. Not this wording, because this only went up there yesterday, but the theme. And those medium corporate members, I won't say who they are, but they're 2 local government areas, they're councils. And they both said, you know, we really want to be part of History Week this year because we want to do something for our communities. We feel that we've been so challenged during this last year that we want to say something, we want to speak to our people, and we want to put up an exhibition, or we want to put up a speaker that speaks to these key themes. So I'll let you read all of that when you go back to it. But, you know, we do invite you to showcase history in all its forms, histories of place, community and environment, as well as family histories, Indigenous histories and others, and really think about what these challenges have been to you. And we've got further details down in here, which have been up here for quite some time. How can members be involved? We've got the Speaker Connect program, which is a really good one to look at, because we've had a couple of libraries get in touch with us and say, actually, we want to go for Speaker Connect this year rather than running an exhibition. You know, so they're kind of making those choices. You know, what is manageable for them in this very dicey time of running events? You know, what is manageable? So we're going to be running Speaker Connect sessions for them. They've put in application for hosting sessions. We'll run that for them. So how that works is that if they're a big library, like, and I will say this, Bathurst Library, brilliant. We learnt from them. They ran the first major Speaker Connect webinar a couple of months ago that we then took a recording from and put it up on our site. So there we were, sitting in Sydney. They ran the whole thing from their library. They'd really researched it well with their IT people, but they ran it through, I think it was GoToMeeting. It wasn't Zoom. So that was the platform for them that they'd decided was the best for them. And it was a brilliant session. And so it was a speaker who was sitting in a remote location. They were running their PowerPoints just as we've been running our PowerPoints tonight. They were sharing the screens. Then they had a Q&A at the end. We recorded it onto our local computer at the time. And then we put it up there. So, you know, so libraries can either ask us to do it, or they can do it themselves and tell us when it's going on, and we'll record it just straight off air, or as it's being broadcast, or they can send us a recording of it.
Catherine, can I just
Yes, please do.
Nicholas would like to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to allow him to talk so he can ask his question.
Okay. I'm not sure whether you can in a webinar, and that's something I need to go through with everybody. I'm going to try and unmute him as well.
Nicola, yeah. Nicholas?
Oh, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to push the raise hand button. Just ignore that.
No worries, no worries. I'll just mute you now. Thank you.
Okay. So that actually, that brings us onto, I'm going to go back onto the History Week Online Further Assistance page, which you can access from the main History Week 2020 site. Okay, so just to take you all back through it again, top of the screen is History Week. There you've got History Week 2020, and then you go onto that page, which is where we are here now. And then you've got further assistance button, and that just takes you to a page that's hanging off the back there. Now, we've built this based on we've made some fabulous documents for you, which I can go through with you right now. I'm just checking the time here. Yep, we're fine. So we've done general information and webinar protocols. Now, I'm sorry this looks funny with these little orange buttons here. If you ever see that on your screen, it's because you don't have Adobe PDF loaded up on your computer. It doesn't mean you have to fill out anything. It's just telling you that it will open up. It's actually called PDF Filler, which is a free program that we use. So that's why it's coming up orange there. She says being a bit geeky. Okay, so I'm going to open this up. Now, what we've done in the background is we've uploaded all of these documents onto our website. So they're sitting there permanently on our website, or for as long as we want them to be there. So we've got them in our library. So this is a hyperlink that goes through to a document for you. And you'll see that it comes up on my computer as a PDF filler thing. You see it saying at the top here, I can fill and edit. Well, we're not doing that. It's a free program. So we've created this. You can download this. You can download any of these documents. They're there for you. They're there for anyone who wants to download them. You could always, create your own documents from this. This might not be something that suits all of you, but what we've actually done is we've said, this is why we use Zoom and we use YouTube for other streaming. But we may use a combination of both platforms simultaneously, which we don't tend to do. And I'll tell you why, because we'd rather record and do a bit of editing to make it just look a little bit nicer, and then put it up as a recorded version. And, there are a lot of people who stream directly to live audiences, not saying that there's anything wrong with that. And if you want to do that, just let us know. But that's the way we do it. There's two different types of Zoom, and this is really important to know. There's meetings and there's webinars. So the meetings are collaborative. So everyone can come into a meeting and be seen and be heard and have a chat. But you as the host and Cass as co-host can either stop that from occurring or start it occurring. The webinars are designated so that only the host and the designated panelists can share their video, audio and screen. And that's just so it just keeps it a little bit tighter and more under control. If you've got a meeting, for instance, and you want your panelists to share their screen, you have to make them a co-host. So there's a whole variety of problems that sit in the background of meetings or challenges. I would say that one of the best sites that I've ever come across is the Zoom site, and they've got a support site which is just extraordinary. I won't click through to it now because I just want to stick with this document for the time being, but you can see as I run my cursor over it, it's coming up on that there's a quick start. There's a hyperlink through to that site. Quick start guide for new users, and I do recommend that you have a look at that because that gives you far more and will answer far more questions than we've got here in this document. Meetings and webinars are priced differently in Zoom. That's actually quite important to think about. There's the pricing of plans that will suit your organisation and your budget. Okay, technical. Now, I created this from my knowledge as a former television studio director when I was working with the ABC. So basically, you need to have the following to participate in an online webinar. You need a computer with a webcam and a microphone enabled. And you will find right down the bottom of your screen in any Zoom session, you have to select your audio, and you would know that if you're using Zoom right now, you'd know that you have to select what your audio input is going to be. And so that is usually either the webcam itself or it's a separate microphone. which could be just straight through a laptop. And some of those webcams that are in laptops already have mics in them. And you need a quiet room with no distractions. Lighting, please read this about lighting. There's a lot of, we've all seen, not just us, we've all seen on television, people struggling with Zoom in the last few months, but a lot of people have got really good at it as well. They've got the eye line right, they've got the lighting right, they've got the audio right. So I've written down all sorts of tips and tricks in here about the lighting, the height of the camera, etc., etc. The background is important because it's your staging. And so what we're going to do, as you can see in my background, I've actually got a virtual background and I can change that. I've just changed it tonight because it's a nighttime scene. When I'm talking to people in the daytime, I have a daytime scene, which is like a lovely open room with windows and light coming through and plants and all that type of thing, because I don't want to look as if I'm sitting in an office. And so your background is a setting. For History Week, we're going to be creating some logos where we can we can share those with you. Cassie's a real whiz on this as well. So we'll get what our graphic designer has done and break them down into a free program called Canva, and we will put those logos up in the background so that my background here will be History Week logo with a couple of the History Week elements in it from that major banner that we've got, which would be a bit too busy to put into the background behind me. I've got to say that until I got a new computer at the end of the financial year, that I couldn't use the virtual background. My older computer, which was only 3 years old, had me just fading away into the background. My hair was, bleeding off into the background. And you can see that bleeding that takes place there. That's poor lighting. See, if I had another light coming in from the side there, it wouldn't be bleeding as much. But at the moment, my office light is on my head there, so it's quite good. Okay, lots of tips and tricks for audio there. We've had all sorts of problems with audio when we're recording people. One of the classic tricks is not to sit in a boomy room, not to sit in what we call a live environment. And a good example of a live environment is a bathroom. If you go into a bathroom or a toilet and you go, you'll hear the echoing around the walls. That's what's called a live environment. So try and sit in a room that has a bit of sound deadening in it, which is just typical office where I am now, any office that has anything with paper in it or carpets on the floor that absorbs the sound. And so it's a much better audio output. Check your audio levels, and that's a hyperlink that goes through to how you do that. And then we've got all sorts of tips about bookings for panelists and rehearsals. We always get online in advance of the session and rehearse with the panelists, because there's nothing worse than kind of going live and having everyone go, hi, or, I haven't got this ready, or just let me adjust my camera. You don't want that. You want to have them at least 15 minutes in advance and line them up, and then you share. You either hit broadcast button or go live or let people into the room at the time, exactly the time that you want them there. PowerPoint presentations and other resources. There's a help article about how you deal with that and how you share your screen. Duration of presentation, be very aware of that. As I was saying earlier, sometimes a half-hour talk with one speaker, with one person interviewing one other, can be very effective. And a rule of thumb for that is that if, like our wonderful ones that we did, well, actually the Spanish flu ones, that was an interviewer plus 2 speakers. And each of those people spoke for 10 to 12 minutes each with a PowerPoint that they timed out in advance. So it was all very organized. And then there was Q&A at the end, and it kept it tight. And the audience loved it. And they came back 5 nights running, large audiences for that. Okay, so audience invitations, well, there's all sorts of information about that. I won't spend time on that at the moment, it being 13 minutes past 6. We need to get on to Q&A properly in a moment. There's tips here about using Zoom as a host or attendee, admission to meetings, webinars, recordings. And then I want to draw to your notice that an appearance agreement is something that's really important. Now, broadcasters will not broadcast anything, and you shouldn't have anything up on your website where you haven't got an appearance agreement with someone. So what we've actually got there, I'm just going to get out of that particular one there in the background, and I'm going to share, sorry, I'll just go through to that further assistance page again. I'll share the screen with you again. Okay, so I won't go into the event types for History Week. I'll let you, it's an information document. So it's very, very, you'll be able to look down through it and you'll see there's exhibitions and there's this and that and the other, and presentations and panel presentations. I've done a few definitions about what live streaming is and what recording is and what the different platforms are. I've done a sample event rundown for you. Now, Cass and I are working to an event rundown tonight where we've timed it all out and we know what we're saying when. Now, this is your participant agreement for the event. And this is our sample one. This is the one that we use. And you can repurpose this. You can talk to your boards or your organisations about this. They might say, oh, we've got our own one that we use, and that's fine as well. But people can ask you to pull things down from the site if you don't have an agreement in place with them. There can be some awful misunderstandings about money. People can think they're going to get paid. Now, we make it a point of paying every single one of our speakers $100. And we say that in our email when we're first speaking to them. If they're speaking for us, directly for the History Council, not for a third party, but directly for the History Council, then we will pay them $100. Now, that's a stipend. And so that's why it's in this thing, where we get people to approve of this or sign this. I will receive no payment for the use of my recording of my image, voice, biographical material or other information by the History Council of New South Wales, other than the stipend that I may or may not be offered for my services as a speaker. Because some people will turn around and say, I don't want the stipend. I don't want it. I'm perfectly okay. I'm waged. Please keep the money. And that's fine as well. But you need to get them to sign a form that says they agree. And anyway, so that's basically it. I'm going to stop sharing that site now, and I'm going to throw it open for questions at this stage. So Cass, you've been monitoring the chat. Do you want to run the chat and we'll go through that?
Yeah, there's no questions at the moment. I've just asked people where they've come from, what organisation they're representing for the time being. But I guess this is a really good opportunity for anyone to ask any questions on whether, like, if your organisation or you have an event in mind but just don't know how to produce it or what to do. Because at the end of the day, like, the purpose of this is that Catherine and myself are here to help you. Even if it is, for example, just telling me an idea, and you're not sure about how to do it, I will then help you by giving you some feedback or suggestions of how you can run. And this is great for smaller organizations as well, where the need for maybe having a social media presence is probably necessary for History Week. And that's where the option of Facebook Live comes to effect. Like, you can stream what you want to do on Facebook for free without the editing options and all that stuff. So if anyone has any questions or would like me, Catherine, to answer anything, let us know. Any questions?
Looking down here through some of the questions. So we've got a few people here from Uni of Newcastle, which is great. And we've got the Wollondilly Heritage Centre Museum. Now, that's very interesting. Thank you, Doreen. And we've also got Norfolk Island. And so Wollondilly, now, Wollondilly, have you presented for us before? Have you run an exhibition for History Week in the past? I have a funny feeling you have. If we've still got Doreen there.
Yes.
Yes, Doreen.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, terrific. Okay, so Doreen, are you going to be, are you planning on an event this year?
Yes, it's on your website. We're doing a history of the local bushfire brigades.
Ah, yes. Yes.
That's with the Oaks historical.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, you've already got an event registered for History Week through them.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
And that's a really good opportunity for you, for example, when we're talking about having an exhibition space. For example, you said that you're a curator there. You could actually be recorded talking about the exhibition and putting it online. So that's another way that you can have like an additional event to your History Week, for example. Which, for example,
record myself. Okay.
Yeah, well, help. For example, because I don't live near you guys,
No.
but I'm like 40 minutes away. But like that would be like an opportunity, for example, where I could come in and kind of be there. Like what we normally do in history, we come to the events, we take photos and stuff. So something like that I could do, record for you, and then upload it to our History Council website, for example, as an additional kind of online content for you, and put it on your Facebook page if you had one and all that stuff.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so,
and can I send to you small videos that we've made?
yes. So that's like really good, because with the History Week we can upload it as like blog content and like IGTV video for Instagram content throughout the whole of History Week, so we can promote your exhibition, what you're trying to say through those other mediums as well. So that's you can do that, because it's very easy for me just to write something, or you can write something and give it to me, and then I'll upload the video and put it on Instagram, Facebook, and linking through like resources through to your event page as well. So that's a really good idea to do. Yes. So you're more than welcome to send me videos.
Because there were videos actually taken at the time about Urandary and the fires in Urandary that were taken by volunteers that were actually at the fire. And I want to include those in the exhibition somehow. Yeah.
Yeah. So as long as you have the permission from them that we can use it, and you organize that, then that will be a really good online component to your exhibition then. Yeah. So that would be perfect.
So
Okay,
the other thought I've got about that, Doreen, I'm really very excited about that. I think it sounds really excellent. The other thought that gives me is that if you send us those in advance, what we could do is upload them to our YouTube site, and we could put them into a special little like exhibitions, or even, make sure that it was linked through from an exhibitions page that we could create on our website, that we said, Wollondilly and the Oaks, have these videos as part of their exhibition. Then that links through from our web page to where we put them up on our YouTube page. So that's another way that we could support you through that. And then we also put your other information about, we link that back to the calendar and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, this technology is quite difficult for me to sort of manage at the moment, because it's all fairly new,
Oh,
but
absolutely.
I mean, I'm struggling to try and put that into the exhibition itself, because we just don't have the money to actually sort of buy a lot of equipment, So
no.
If it was a YouTube thing, then I could sort of bring it in quite easily into the exhibition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do people have? Do you know? I mean, this is just an idea. I've seen people using, iPads. Oh, you can't really see it.
Yes, I know about the iPads. Yeah.
So you could maybe, put them up on an iPad in your exhibition as well, if you had somebody who was, willing to do that. We could upload it onto our YouTube site for you and send you the link of what the actual YouTube link was, and then you could have it going through your iPad in the middle of the exhibition. So it's got this lovely circular nature of,
Yes, the mind boggles, doesn't it?
It does. But it just, I mean, I think it's just so exciting that it expands.
Well, it was an opportunity now to make history important in Wallandilly, because
Yeah.
so many people are getting older now and they won't remember this for much longer, that
No.
when there were volunteers in the rural fire service, you know,
Yes.
they were volunteers and that was all there was to it. And in the Balmoral fires, for instance,
Of course.
the voices of the volunteers were not heard. The rural fire service sort of took them over, and we lost Balmoral. So
has anybody done a series of oral histories with them that you know
we're
of?
trying, we're trying, but there's very few of us, and because of COVID, we can't go into people's homes and all that. So it's been quite difficult. Yeah,
of course.
it has been quite difficult to actually do that. So, but we're doing our very best. Yeah.
Just remember that this sort of thing that we're doing right now and that we're recording, you could record interviews with people via Zoom or Skype or whatever platform you wanted. You know, you could do your 30-minute interviews for nothing with somebody via their iPhone or you know, you can either do it via the iPhone or you can do it by your laptop or computer.
Right, yeah.
Just using Zoom as an oral history. You could do a variety of them. Now, it's never going to be broadcast standard. That's the whole thing. And you'll find some of the archives kind of, they get into a bit of a tiz about these things. They go, oh, it's not the correct standard. But there's a really important historic school of thought which says these are research interviews. These are really important to be gathered. It doesn't matter too much about whether it's broadcast standard or not. You know, if you could hear the person, if they're coherent, if they've still got their memories that are very strong, and if you can hear them properly, and it doesn't have to be broadcast standard, then they're really important interviews to gather. Really important, and so much easier by Zoom than going up to somebody's house these days. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the iPhone is very good. I mean, we have been using that, so that's good.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
And now we've got somebody also here from Norfolk Island as well, and Rose Evans. Rose, can we hear from you about what you're thinking about with potentially doing something for History Week?
Sure, yes. We've been thinking about doing some short videos of our staff members and asking them which artefact from the collection is their favourite and why. And we were wanting to post them to our social media, so Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, that sounds excellent. So, in fact, your online exhibition and your collation of materials could just be through Facebook and could be through your website, and then you just link through to us and we could spread it further, give you a bigger audience.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, I think Nicholas wanted to share something with us as well.
Oh yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think I'm in a bit of an echo chamber. I'll just change rooms.
Oh, we can hear you really, really well, actually, and not echoing.
Oh, great. Okay. So I've got a little idea that I wanted to share. It's very early stage. I haven't really had a chance to develop it into whether it'd be a panel or what. But I wanted to share it also because it's quite topical in the context of the controversy around statues and memorials. I am a PhD candidate at the University of Newcastle, and just recently we've had some press around the Civic Park fountain in Newcastle, one of the central parks there, and a plaque claiming the discovery of Australia by Captain Cook. And it's been covered in a fairly spotted account by local press, and I see an opportunity there to have a more well-rounded discussion about it. At this stage, I haven't contacted anyone. I have a bit of a wish list for, potential collaborators or speakers, but I haven't contacted them, and thought there may be similar ideas out there amongst the attendees today, or maybe it is that the History Council, are you curating different events that are similar in nature in any way?
Yes, can you answer that question from what you've seen coming in?
For the events for History Week, no. But externally from History Week, through History Now, yes. Because we have done, as you may know, we've done an episode on statue wars. And then there was a follow-up episode, I think it's this week on Friday.
UTS.
With Dr. Kira Lindsay, where she's bringing Mariko Smith and such. But you can still do that to the Newcastle area. That's a really good event idea where you're actually addressing a current political situation and you're like not recording history as it happens and stuff, but it's probably, if your wish of speakers, if you have that wish list, you should probably contact them now.
Yeah.
And ask if they're available and start getting that all together. But that's a really good idea for you can do exactly what we've done in the past through Zoom. And then you can also produce some content with the statue in question and write a blog about it, which we can then circulate in our newsletter in preparation for your discussion, for example. But at this stage, no one else through History Week has actually approached this topic yet. It's been mostly about COVID for the time being, about pandemics and the Spanish flu, for example.
Okay, thank you. And in this case, would speakers would they receive a stipend, or?
Only if it was a Speaker Connect kind of panel. But Nicholas, why don't you, maybe if you want to contact me directly, or maybe, are you with, is Nancy Cushing your supervisor, or?
No, she's not one of my supervisors, but I see Nancy regularly.
Yeah. Do you want to have a bit of a chat with Nancy? Because it sounds like something that she could really kind of help you with and help you mould it and suggest some sort of forum in which the idea can get up. And if it's not in History Week, and this is the other thing, we're really concentrating all these ideas into History Week, but sometimes there are other events that people want to suggest to us that might not be timed well for History Week. Like there might be a developing idea that might need to be at another time. And so think about that as well, that we can always, create a forum. Like the one that was the Uluru Statement. We put that on specifically for the anniversary of the Uluru Statement. And so that's why that went out on that day. So do have a think. Is it timely? Is it anything that's time bound? Or is it just a great idea and there are people who are around who you want to air this particular thing? And think journalistically as well, which is very much exactly the same lines as writing an essay. It's just that sort of thing, beginning, middle and end, and who are the protagonists, antagonists, and what are the key lines that you're wanting to pursue for a panel discussion in particular. Who do you want to have, say, new information or new revealing information about a topic, or just talk about the history, which is, wonderful in itself.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks, Cass.
That's all right. But do email us or Nancy about it if you need more help.
Sure. Thanks.
And you can just, even if you want to talk to Catherine directly and you don't have her email, just pretty basic. It's either programs or admin at History Council, newsouthwales.org.au. So you can send me through the inquiry, then I can then forward it on.
Okay. Well, look, thank you very much, everybody. We've reached the end of our session right now. I hope that we've answered many of your questions and given you some information which will enable you to make a decision about the type of session that you'd like to run for History Week. We'd love to see your registration come on in. And if there's any other questions that you have, as Cass was saying, please do get on to us via those email addresses that she just mentioned, and they're up on our website as well. We're more than happy to discuss them. And we love the whole thing about, the content of History Week, and, we get the chalk dust flying with the blackboard, and we get our minds into gear. about how things could happen for you, particularly online. Just got one new, I thought we had a new question, but yeah, we've just got Joe Henwood saying thank you very much. Joe's one of our speakers that we've had a lot to do with in the past, and she's great.
Oh,
So.
that's nice. Thank you. Thank you.
It's all right, Joe. No, it's good to see that you're attending tonight, and you know, you're a staunch supporter of the History Council and in all our different forms, on all our different platforms. So it's great.
Thank you. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for tonight, and thank you for what you are about to do in the future. And that's a sense of history.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, everyone. I'm going to call the session to a close right now. So you'll see me end the session, and it'll boot you out.
Yeah.
So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.